I'm not gonna lie to you, this one scares the shit out of me. Well, that was a fail. The last few days have been a huge learning curve for me. A few months back, we noticed that the water pressure in our house was getting a little weird. We would turn the sink on for the first time in the morning or when we had been out of the house for a while, and all of a sudden the water comes out with this huge amount of pressure, and then it eases off back into normal. And of course, we ignored this for quite some time, like you do. But after it had been going on for a while, we thought, this might do some damage to our pipes. Now, I have since learned that the immediate issue is more about the fixtures in your house than it is about your pipes. The sinks, the showers, the toilets, your dishwasher, your washing machine, your water heater. All of those things are designed to work with a certain amount of water pressure, and when it's too high, it's going to cause them damage and make them fail quicker. So you're going to have toilet valves that fail, or your water heater is going to go a lot quicker. Now, this project made me really nervous because I'm not a plumber, and this goes far beyond fixing your toilet or unclogging a drain. So of course I go online on Google and YouTube and try to figure out what the problem is, and I learned it could be either the pressure reducing valve, which is attached to your main line, and those go bad sometimes, or it could also be the expansion tank on my water heater, which would have affected both the hot and the cold water. So once I did a little research and got past that initial fear of even starting a project that's beyond your scope, I was able to actually get started, and here is my journey. Now, I was pretty sure that the problem was the pressure reducing valve, which controls and adjusts the pressure of the water coming into your home so that it stays at an acceptable level. I was almost sure mine had gone bad, so I went to Home Depot and purchased a new one. And on an impulse, I also bought a water pressure gauge so that I could test the pressure levels in a more scientific way. The gauge can be attached to either your water heater or the washing machine water source to determine the pressure inside your home. The black line monitors the pressure at any given moment, and the red line will stay at the highest level it reaches while it's attached. Before I got started on anything, I contacted my friend Matt Irons with Integrated Plumbing Solutions, who's a stand-up guy if you need a plumber in the Northwest Georgia area. And he suggested that I monitor the pressure for the next 24 hours or so, just to make sure that the problem really is the PRV and not the expansion tank. When I checked the next morning after the plumbing had sat idle all night, the line read 140 psi, which is really, really high. Matt had me do one more thing, which was test the air release valve at the bottom of the expansion tank, which works just like it does on your car tire, to see if any air came out, but nothing came out. Based on those two pieces of data, Matt informed me that the problem is probably the expansion tank and not the PRV. If it were the PRV, the pressure would have remained consistently high as opposed to only getting high when it built up over a long period of time. So off to Home Depot I went to exchange them.
I really ought to know. I will choose free will.
The purpose of the expansion tank is to relieve some of the pressure that builds up inside the water heater as the water is heated. This will help extend the life of your water heater and is also building code in a lot of areas. Luckily for me, the expansion tank costs about half of what the PRV cost and is a lot easier to install. Score! Thermal expansion tanks are made up of two parts. One portion is a bladder that fills with water to relieve the pressure from the water heater. The other portion is an air tank, which has to be pumped up to 60 psi or whatever the normal resting pressure in your home is. Man, how much do I love this thing. I turned off the water, let the water run out of the faucets, and released some of the pressure from the water heater. That old expansion tank was a beast to get loose. I used a little WD-40, a wire brush to clean the threads, and even a hairdryer in the hopes that it would make the copper pipe expand a little. Lots of elbow grease later, and that sucker finally came loose. Now, here's what should have happened. Oh, jeez. Oh, it's like really heavy. Here's what actually happened. Whoa. Well, that was a fail. What went wrong? I thought I had turned my water main entirely off, but I hadn't tightened it exactly tight enough, so water was still seeping in and it was still filling everything. So, make sure you really tighten that sucker tight. I added some Teflon tape to the threads of the new expansion tank to make sure it doesn't leak, tightened it up, and turned the water back on. I put the gauge back in place to monitor the pressure to make sure the problem was fixed. And lo and behold, both lines are still just slightly above 60, which is awesome. That means that we have fixed the problem. And also, it does not appear to be leaking. And the problem is fixed. So don't be scared. You can do it. If I can, you can. I promise, because I don't have any special skills, I promise you. Y'all have a great day. Look for my next video on Chick Fix.